What's up everyone, Tim here from Everyday Tactical Vids, and today we're looking at the First Edge 50/50 survival knife. Now the way we're going to test this knife out is by starting off with the smaller tasks and then working up to the larger tasks. So we're going to begin with some feather sticking, then we'll do some prying, then we'll do some batoning, and then we're going to cut down a large tree using just this knife. So when you're making a feather stick with a knife, you're going to find out a bunch of things about the knife. You're going to find out how sharp your edge is. You're going to find out how easy it is to do some of that precision work. You're also going to find out about how comfortable the handle is. So this handle is quite aggressive as far as its texturing, and it's large, which I really like because I find a lot of knives are just too small for my hands. So we'll actually, after our chopping down the tree test, we'll go back and feather stick again to see how this Elmax steel is holding an edge. But I think you could see, despite the fact that the knife is large, and we're getting some nice, really nice feathering going on here. Spin around this side just so you can see again. We'll talk about this more in a minute, but this knife is in use by the Navy SEALs. And let's be honest, I don't think the Navy SEALs are probably doing a ton of feather sticking. But for those of us who spend a lot of time in the outdoors, feather sticking is a way to get fire started. It's also a way to test the knife to see how well it does in some of that finer work, more precision cuts. This is the first time I've ever used this knife. I've been keeping it in the box and unused just so I can really get a look at what the knife would be right out of the box, right from the factory, you know, not touching up the edge at all. And I'll certainly say that it's doing the job with that fine work. Here's a look at some of the feather sticks I made. So I would say first test as far as making feather sticks, this thing definitely passes. Our next test here is for tip strength. So we're going to stab into this tree. This is actually a live oak, so not some sort of soft wood. This is definitely a harder wood for testing the tip strength of this knife. Flip it around the other way. And just to show you as far as how deep it's going in, so you're talking about that far in, it's at almost an inch. So we're getting a little wear on the blade, you can see down there from the feather sticking and then from that stabbing test. But as far as the tip of the knife, it's none worse for the wear. No bends, no chips, no issues whatsoever. All right, let's move on to doing some batoning now. You saw it baton a bit there on camera, and then I don't think watching batoning on camera is the most exciting thing. So I turned the camera off and did a bunch more batoning. You can see my stack of wood there. This thing is a beast at batoning. It's got very much like a BK2 flavor as far as its size, with the thickness, its weight overall. So this thing it was just great at batoning. And I found the coating, they give that dark coating, obviously. You know, if Navy SEALs are using it, they don't want to have something that's shining and giving off their location. So the coating in general, I like something that doesn't have a coating on it, but it doesn't seem to be very grippy. It's not dragging through the wood. It seems to be very slick as it's going through the wood that I'm batoning. So there's your stack of wood that I just batoned through. Some oak, I did some more pine, then I did some more oak after that again, and it definitely gets the job done. Let's move on to chopping down a tree. Excuse my voice, I'm a little bit sick here, but after chopping down the tree, still able to get those very, very fine curls. So the edge has definitely held up really well. All right, let me give you a rundown of some of the specs on the 550 fixed blade survival knife from First Edge. So it obviously is a full tang, meaning that the steel is going to run from the tip all the way down to the pommel end of the knife. It is made of Elmax stainless steel, and it's 0.235 inches thick. Your Rockwell hardness is 60 to 61. Your blade length is 5.125 inches. Your overall length, 11.25 inches. The knife by itself is 17.5 ounces, so it is definitely a heavier knife. This is not a super lightweight blade. It's not made to be that. It's made to be heavy, so it can be used very aggressively. Your handles are G10, and they're textured. I would call them aggressive as far as how it actually feels in the hand. There is a lanyard hole. There's what they call a striking pommel. Some people call it a skull crusher down at the pommel end. And then we'll take a look at the sheath in a second here, which also has some pretty unique features. So looking at the sheath, you can tell right now that it is Kydex. Flip it on the back, you can see we have ballistic nylon for basically your attachment point to your belt. It is attached in 4 locations here, so 1, 2, 3, 4. You could remove those, and if you just want it in the Kydex to throw it in a bag without the ballistic nylon, you could do that. It is stitched nicely here, so it's not just a single line of stitching multiple times that they've gone over, so that just means it's going to be more durable. Nice wide loop here to put that on your belt. It does lock in, and then you have additional retention here with the snap. There is a tiny, tiny bit of movement in the sheath. You could probably hear that. But not a ton. I wish it was maybe a little bit more snug, but let's see if maybe I crank these down after I use them for a while. After I finish the review, I should say, and we'll see if that'll tighten up. But you do have additional retention there as well. Now, the thing that makes the sheath unique, if you haven't heard about First Edge before, these are knives that are used by Naval Special Warfare, and they were having issues with their old sheaths breaking in very cold temperatures. So when they were doing training in the Arctic, these would get so brittle that they'd snap off, and now you have this part falling off, and now you have the tip of your knife sticking out, and if you're doing something where you bend the wrong way or roll the wrong way, you can get stabbed in the side. So what they did instead was that First Edge basically has put a metal liner in here in the sheath, so that even if the Kydex were to break, it just doesn't allow the entire thing to fall off. It basically stays in one piece as far as like the whole unit doesn't crumble into multiple pieces. It may be snapped here, and eventually you're gonna wanna have that fixed, but it doesn't snap and then have this fall off with the tip of the knife exposed. So that's a cool feature. Again, it's definitely made for heavy duty, intense use, and I do like that option when it comes to, you know, the thought that they've put into the sheath. This is not built for bushcrafters or people just out in the woods. This is again built for the military, so that's why you have that specific approach to how they've handled the sheath. But there certainly are benefits for those of us who are not in Naval Special Warfare or anything like that, just because if the knife or the sheath were to crack for some reason, you know, from a fall or dropping it or whatever, you're gonna still be safe and not get stabbed by the tip of the knife. So we're into our New Hampshire spring. It's the end of April right now, and the flies and the biting bugs are out. So you may see some of them flying around the camera. A little breeze is kicking up, so maybe a little bit harder to hear me, but at least the bugs are away. Anyhow, let's wrap up talking about this First Edge 50/50 survival knife. First off, when I think of a survival knife, this is what I think of. Like a big hefty knife that can be used in a variety of applications. I would not call this a bushcraft knife. I wouldn't call it, you know, a knife that you're gonna do a lot of little tiny detail work with, just because how thick it is, how heavy it is, the size of the handle, the structure of the handle. It's just not made to be a straight up bushcraft knife. But this is, to me, it falls into that one tool option kind of category. Now, do I want to chop down a ton of trees with this? No. But if you had to chop down something big, could you? Well, you saw it. It definitely does work. So, survival knife, yes. Let's talk about the steel, Elmax. I've used that on probably a half dozen knives, and I have loved it. So it's not the easiest steel for companies to get a hold of, and it's expensive, but it does keep a great edge. You saw after I did all that work and then I chopped down a tree, I was able to still get some really nice curls off that wood, you know, toward the end of this video just a little bit ago. You saw that. So yeah, Elmax is really good. It is going to take a little bit more effort to sharpen because of the Rockwell hardness, and Elmax is just a little bit harder to sharpen, but it's going to keep it edge for a really long time. So for some people, when they're out in the field, they're like, I don't want to think about sharpening my knife. This is definitely a great steel for that. When I think of this knife, I think of something, like I said before, kind of in that BK2 family, you know, a big, hefty survival knife. So it's going to be used for a variety of tasks. Not going to do the tiny little detail work as well as something that's really small like a Mora, but it's going to do a lot of tasks well. And again, that Elmax I really like. There are some things, you know, if they wanted to market this to somebody who is maybe into wilderness survival but also outdoors, camping, bushcrafting, that they could tweak and change, you know, that coating. A lot of people like just a straight set and finish, making the handle a little bit smaller, maybe giving a couple different options for sheaths. And at SHOT Show 2016, when I was talking to them, they were already listening to, you know, ideas I think that people were sharing about maybe the next round of their knives. For me, another big win of this knife is going to be the size of the handle. So it just fits really nicely in my hand. I do find a lot of slightly maybe medium to small knives. When I grab the knife, I got to make sure I readjust my hand so it gets super comfortable. This one I take out of the sheath, I grab it, and it falls where I want it to be really comfortable in my hand. And these guys also have a field knife, which is a little bit smaller than this one, and I'm looking forward maybe in the future to getting a hold of that and reviewing it as well. So we'll see what we think about, you know, that knife compared to this knife. So far though, I've been very impressed with this this First Edge knife. There's been a lot of, you know, when people talk about like the Navy SEALs use the knife, people are like, oh, okay, the Navy SEALs, but I totally get the skepticism, because everybody and their mother's like, the Navy SEALs use this, the Navy SEAls eat this Snickers bar. Like, that's just crazy. On the other side though, if the Navy SEAls do use a knife, you know that it's going to be really well made. So when you have a high level military branch or a military group using a knife like this, it does speak to the quality of it. So keep that in mind. You're going to pay more for this knife, but I look at this as one of those lifelong investments. If you're going to buy this knife, you're going to have it for a very long time and probably pass it on to the next generation. I put links down below if you want to purchase this knife, and let us know your thoughts. Do you like it? What do you like about it? What would you change about it when it comes to this 50/50 survival knife from First Edge? Thanks as always for checking out the videos. More videos coming soon. Take care.